All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, May 21st, and here's the severe weather discussion again for the next few days. But before we get into that, it's always helpful that if you make a forecast to go and verify and see what happened. So if we look at the storm reports from yesterday, a big cluster of wind reports across Montana associated with a bow echo last night that actually moved north-northwest and entered Canada. Landspout reports in Weld County, Colorado, on the tail end of the line of storms that developed in Wyoming. Also a cluster of hail reports down near my target in the Lubbock, Texas area from yesterday. And again, just kind of going back and taking a look at the radar here. Yesterday afternoon, as expected, line of storms formed over Wyoming, and then more scattered activity, actually less blobby than expected down across the Lubbock area. A couple more discrete cells here instead of a line. And then as this line built south, a couple of the tail end storms, like I said, kind of interesting one near Douglas, another one there in northern Colorado. But yesterday, again, wasn't really a big tornado day. And there you see that bow echo moving north across eastern Montana, and then the storms across Texas consolidating their outflows and beginning to forward propagate along the leading edge of that spreading cold air. And that MCS formed a little vortex in there, a mesoscale convective vortex, we call those. And as we continue this in time, a lot of that activity died out. So looking this morning, a dying thunderstorm complex across deep South Texas, a couple lines of storms, not very interesting across Kansas, and still some lingering precipitation associated with that upper level low. So if we change gears and bring up the satellite picture, we'll make the loop not 200 frames, we can see our friend or our enemy, more like it, that upper low still swirling across the Tennessee Valley. A lot of low clouds locked in behind that across a lot of the Midwest. And then this band of mid-level clouds, pretty nice cloud shadow showing up here on the western edge of this over the eastern Texas panhandle. In the upper trough now, center of that over southern Alberta province up there in Canada. Long wave infrared, kind of interesting this morning. You can see some of those storms across Central Plains, the dying complex across Texas. And also looking here across the Great Lakes, you can see the cooler lakes compared to the warmer surrounding land surface being heated by the sun, even the Finger Lakes over New York. And then also even the Gulf Stream out here, the northern edge of that, you have the warmer water here showing a darker, colder water to the north being colder, and then even some cumulus convection over the Gulf Stream itself. And then finally, looking at the mid-level water vapor picture, we can see again strong suggestion of meridional flow aloft over the northern and central plains associated with that upper low, and a little bit of a shortwave trough here moving from Arizona into New Mexico, and I think that'll provide the large-scale ascents across the target area that we'll outline here in a bit. So looking at our upper air analysis, again, you can see the big upper low over the west, closed low over Tennessee, stuck kind of underneath this big ridge, sprawling here across the Great Lakes states. Flow, again, pretty meridional from Kansas and even Amarillo northward, 250 millibars, so jet stream level here. But you do see more westerly flow waiting in the wings back across the desert southwest. Going down to 500 millibars, again, cold air here associated with both of these upper lows aloft, as to be expected. Deep or mid-level flow, again, only 20 knots at Amarillo, 10 knots at Dodge City, but that looks a bit anomalous to me. I'd expect that to pick up and go around to the southwest as this upper low progresses eastward. And then lighter and more disorganized flow farther south across Texas as the height gradient collapses. 700 millibars, capping a bit weaker than yesterday, 10 at Dodge City, 11 at Norman, 9 at Dallas, still hanging on to 12 there at Amarillo. Cap was breached in this area yesterday across Southern Plains. I would expect the cap to break again this afternoon. And then finally, down at 850 millibars, again, remnant nocturnal low-level jet you see with the strong flow here out of the south. And we've actually had a cold frontal passage here across the northern and central high plains I think that'll really knock this area out of being a valid target today. So looking at a couple soundings, Dodge City, again, moisture here, only about 50, a little more than that millibars deep. But we do see the dew point here actually increasing with height, so at least as mixing begins, dew point will creep up into the low 60s there later on this morning. Moving down to, and the wind profile here, coming back to Dodge City, does need a bit of work. You see the weakness here in the mid-levels, but I expect that to pick up later on today. Also steep mid-level lapse rates, typical of the elevated mixed layer over the plains. Amarillo, again, good lapse rates, again, moisture here. Somebody like the ankle deep comment, well, ankle deep moisture again there at Amarillo. Moving south into the Midland area, again, pretty dry on the sounding, and I think a lot of that was just due to the fairly widespread convection over central Texas last night. All that rain, right, has to come from somewhere. Where does it come from? It falls out of the air. So I think that little MCS did kind of do a number on the moisture across Texas today. And again, you can see Fort Worth, again, although 68 surface dew point, much shallower moisture there than yesterday. Low-level wind fields also kind of messed up by that MCS this morning. So coming down to the surface, again, just focus on Texas here first. You can see richer low-level moisture up to the east with 70s dew points, and then falling off through the 60s and then into the 50s back here to the west. Also with the winds here already out of the southwest, I'd expect the dry line to set up a bit farther east than it did yesterday, probably closer to the longitude of the eastern border of the Texas Panhandle. It's 100 degrees west if you're curious. And then to the north here, kind of this corridor of some backflow through Dodge City, Garden City, Liberal, Tri-City area there in northern Kansas. And I think that's probably going to be my hypothetical target area today, and I really don't think that's a shock to a lot of folks. And then taking a look at the dew point map, again, dry line retreating westward overnight. It'll mix back east later on this afternoon. So jumping into the numerical models here, let's bring up the NAM. A couple target areas today. I'll start looking at the College of DuPage site because I really don't want to have to jump around between multiple maps looking at the same day. So again, like yesterday, what we're going to do is look at today and then move on and look at the next 3 days. So if we take a look at the NAM here, surface temperature and pressure, you can see our lee low is expected over northeast New Mexico. North of that, the flow, again, more southeasterly, probably helping to increase the low-level shear a bit down here. And then as we head to the south, low-level flow more southerly across a lot of Texas. Also, you see a lot of cold air, cooler air locked up here to the north. So really anywhere kind of north of southwest Kansas today, not really a valid target for severe weather. Jumping up to 850 millibars, so again, about 1.5 kilometers above sea level. So if you're unfamiliar with average heights of the pressure surfaces, that's a very, very important thing to learn. So again, low-level flow here on the order of 20 knots across southwest Kansas. A bit weaker, well, still 15 to 20 knots as well down to the south across Texas. But we do see the low-level flow again increasing as we approach 0Z, 7 o'clock. PM Central Time, and then increasing further with the onset of the nocturnal low-level jet, and then looks like some upscale convective growth occurring here in the model after sunset across southwest Kansas and adjoining states. Heading up to 500 millibars, you can see the model here has kind of captured that mesoscale convective vortex across Texas. And there will be slightly enhanced flow on the south side of that as that slowly moves east in the weak ambient mid-level flow today. But notice the mid-level flow, again, much stronger here. Well, not much stronger, but stronger, 30 to 35 knots across southwest Kansas, extending down into a lot of New Mexico. And then that flow here on the order of 30 knots out of the southwest does overspread a lot of North Texas, Panhandle, into southwest Kansas later on today as that mesoscale convective vortex makes its way east into the Arklatex. Anvil level flow, we talked about this yesterday with, again, this has a very strongly meridional component like what you see here from the southern border of Kansas on north. That does tend to yield itself to upscale growth more often than not. So we do see the better westerly flow coming in here with this jet streak over New Mexico. And one area we look at that's favored for synoptic scale ascent is the left exit region. So that's left relative to somebody moving with the flow here. So the left would be the north side of this. And then the exit region is the air flows out of the jet. That is the exit region, and the air here actually flows faster than the jet actually moves, if you want to think about it that way. So again, we'll see pretty good synoptic ascent in this area as well, and then lesser synoptic ascent over a lot of the rest of the southern plains. Also coincident with that trough in the westerlies there, we do see this area of positive vertical vorticity. And again, we look downstream of that as well for synoptic ascent. Here's our mesoscale convective vortex as well, shifting east across Oklahoma. And, you know, I mean, if I guess somebody bored in the Arklatex area, there might be a couple storms around there today, but I would go targeting that area. It's a forest. But we are going to see, I think, storms, pretty good bet. Southeast Colorado, Southwest Kansas today. The southern extent of that bit in question, but I think you're going to want to be about as far south as you possibly can be today, as the wind fields will look better the farther south you are today. And there we see going in through 3s through 10 o'clock. So looking at our surface dew point field here, if you're wondering, the red contours on this are just contoured of what's called the lifted index. Basically, you take an air parcel from the ground, you lift it to 500 millibars. If the lifted index is negative, that rising surface air is warmer than the ambient environment, and that's the red contours. And the more negative this is, the more unstable the atmosphere is. So it's kind of a proxy for CAPE, if you will. But we do see already this morning into the afternoon, dry line here mixing east as expected, and the southeast flow kind of maintaining this moisture channel of probably lower 60s dew points into southwest Kansas today. North side of the dry line bulge, probably some additional convergence here between the southeast flow and then the southwest flow punching in here. And as we head to the north, again, just the wind profiles look a bit messier up there as you head into west central Kansas in the north toward the I-70 corridor. Richer low-level moisture, 70s dew points kind of confined here to Texas today. But owing to that MCS passage overnight, whereas yesterday this tongue of 70s dew points was extending back toward the Childress area, again, we've kind of lost a lot of that, so it has to make its way farther from the southeast to the northwest. So I think that's kind of cutting down on that secondary target area in the vicinity of Childress, Texas today. I really don't think that's a very good target today. I'm favoring the northern target today, as we will see. 700 millibar temperatures. Again, you see that cool pool associated with the mesoscale convective vortex that moving away toward the Arklatex today. But we do see cooling here owing to large-scale ascent overspreading this area, southwest Kansas in vicinity today. And again, if you look down to the south here, you do see the capping increasing with southward extent into the Texas Panhandle today. So again, I'm not sure we're going to see a lot of widespread storms in the eastern Panhandle today. I think probably about the southern border of Kansas, probably going to be about it in terms of where we're going to see widespread storms today. So one thing I like that the College of DuPage has is they have a CAPE and SYN plot overlaid, because you could have the largest CAPE in the world, but if you're capped, it doesn't really matter. And so the shading on this is CAPE. The hatching on this represents where SYN is, I believe, greater than 25 joules per kilogram. So again, you see things becoming uncapped, again, back here across southwest Kansas, and you see farther down the dry line where that MCS has really kind of messed up the air a little bit. We do see a good amount of capping being maintained down here farther to the south. And then obviously we head way south down here. We do have uncapped profiles, but the mid-level flow fields that far south are just going to be quite a bit weaker, I think. And then again, obviously there's who knows what might happen over here, but I'm not really too concerned about that. And I also like this Cape Shear overlay plot as well. So this is most unstable Cape, so any parcel, not just from the surface, but from anywhere in the lowest 180 millibars of the column. And the shear's overlaid on this. So again, the back edge of this Cape is the dry line. And we talked yesterday about the mid-level flow fields, what happens when they're parallel to a boundary. Well, today they're going to be a bit more perpendicular, at least the farther south you go. And then obviously as we head north here, we're just dealing with the anvil level meridional flow. So I think there's going to be a happy medium set up somewhere very near the southern border of Kansas today, where there's the best chance of seeing a discrete storm, and then obviously parallel shear down the dry line around 30 knots, and then dropping off 25 knots or so down toward the international border. Low level shear today, again, starting out relatively high during the morning. Again, areas where it's cloudy or where it's enhanced by that mesoscale convective vortex. Again, you see that area of southeast Oklahoma, the Red River Valley, kind of perking up there. But low level shear, again, going to be generally fairly weak across this target area with 0 to 1 kilometer helicities you see showing up here, just squeaking into the double digits. But then things do increase after sunset as that low level jet ramps up. So if you're able to have something remain discrete toward 8, 9 o'clock today, today's not the kind of day where you say, oh, well, there's a storm there, it's not that interesting. Let's go to the hotel and get a nice carry-out dinner at 7 o'clock. Today's probably not the day to do that unless things really do grow upscale into a line faster than I would think they would. So your supercell composite parameter here, again, you see bullseyeing up there to the north, and then making its way a little bit south here as well. Obviously, some of these big Cape areas showing up across central Texas. But really, we don't have a great boundary down here. This doesn't account for SIN either. But again, kind of this northern area showing up a little higher on the supercell composite today. The significant tornado parameter, again, really not a big day for that today. Again, we'll just throw a sounding here. I'm actually curious about the southern flank of that mesoscale convective vortex, and these are pretty sneaky targets. But actually, low-level hodograph doesn't look bad. Deep layer shear, kind of a mess. Pretty weakly capped. But again, if you get something that is relatively discrete in a cluster, I mean, I guess there's no reason why it couldn't spin over there today. And again, if we head up here, kind of where this is bullseyeing, I think a lot of this probably going to be inside the rain. Yeah, you do see convective contamination here on this sounding. Deep layer shear, again, just a hot mess that far to the north, and I think there's some convective processes showing up there in the model. We'll look at another forecast sounding here in a bit. And then finally, where the NAM initiates convection, again, 15Z, 18Z, 21Z, again, first cell initiating up here to the north, but again, first storm, not always the best storm. And again, the question is, how far south is this going to initiate today? Again, this is not where you'd want to be. This is back in the dry air. I'll just put a sounding back there. So again, the Raton Mesa, always kind of a fun target, but again, very hot, dry boundary layer there. So unless you want to go chase some blowing dust or some downbursts, that's probably not where you want to be today. And if we put a sounding here kind of in the inflow of this southern thing, again, modest low-level hodograph curvature and length, fairly uncapped, deep layer shear, again, marginal for organized storms, but again, that is there today. And then you see that the NAM does not initiate down the dry line through the eastern Texas Panhandle down into Texas. That's not the be-all, end-all of things, but that is a red flag. And then you see upscale growth commencing here after sunset across Kansas, and that, again, will be important for succeeding days to keep an eye on that. So the high resolution NAM, I do like College DuPage also has this every hour as opposed to every 3 hours. So again, you see that the storms forming here down toward the southern tier of the counties of Kansas. So these storms to the north will be ingesting outflow from the storms to the south. So really, is the cumulus bubbles this afternoon. You want to keep an eye on satellite and kind of be on the south end of any kind of storm complex that goes, and maintaining this here relatively discreet. This does blow up a cell down the dry line here, down in the vicinity of I-20 in Texas. So out of completeness, and some of the other high-res models are initiating down here as well. But as we, the sounding loads here, just give it a moment. You'll see the photograph here, really pretty straight down low. Obviously, we do have those capping problems as well. So I really think, again, unless you're local down here, if you're trying to choose between targets, I think the northern target today, southwest Kansas, probably it's fairly obvious, at least to me, which target I would prefer. So now that we've kind of eliminated the southern target, we'll look at some of the other high-res models here. These are only available on Pivotal Weather. Again, every hour, this is the WRF ARW. So again, if you download the WRF from NCAR and want to go, simulate Pilger or something, this is the version of WRF you're going to be running. And you see, again, kind of very blobby and upscale across west central into northwest Kansas, but at least some indication maybe of a tailwind storm down here, southern two tiers of counties of Kansas or so. So I think target area today, I think pretty small. So, more on the obvious side, the NMMB. What does this one do? Again, a little more linear, a little farther south into the Oklahoma Panhandle. But again, you say, oh, I'm going to target Guyman and storms go a couple counties to your north. It's not, you can't just go drive up there, right? Whereas, once I remember, there was a supercell, somebody was just sitting in their target like 2 counties to the south. I think it was 2015. I'm not quite sure what you're doing there. But anyway, and again, you kind of see some hints there of the tailwind storm before we get upscale growth and subsequent forward propagation with the cold pool there to the southeast. And then finally, well, not finally, but the NSSL WRF. Again, this model, again, you see kind of some hints of quasi-discrete activity, but then there goes the outflow boundary, the cold pool, propagating away from this. So this one, I'm a little more pessimistic about the upscale growth there. And I'm not going to really go down and show the Texas target. Just take my word for it. It's a mess. Oh, and of course, I forgot to look at the HER. How could I ever do that? So again, we'll just pull up the HER first 12Z run, and then we'll look at the 13Z run. So again, the HER a bit farther north, but you see again first cells forming up there. Yeah, the cells will form to the north first today, where the capping is weaker. But again, the first storm isn't always the best storm. And that's a really important thing to get to know. But again, the HER, really not too impressive with what it does on the southern end of the line. It does also fire some convection southwest of the Dallas area, and then you see the NCS forward propagating into the night. The 13Z HER, just kind of out of completeness, this I have not seen yet. But you see again, very clustery up there to the north. This one here is not really firing things as far enough south. So again, kind of between the Oklahoma Panhandle and maybe 3 counties into Kansas here, kind of be that rough target area, kind of southwest of Garden City, west or a little northwest of Liberal, probably where I'd want to be today. So I think a pretty obvious target. And then we can look at the new HER version 4, which will be, I think, officially coming online sometime in June. I heard it's going to be kind of fixing some of the hot dry bias that you often see in the operational HER. And this one, actually quite a bit farther to the north in terms of convection initiation. So this one really struggling to bring things down to about the latitude of Garden City, US 50 corridor going through Syracuse, not that one. And then obviously upscale growth commencing after midnight. And again, Texas not really looking too good there. But again, you do kind of see also that little sneaky target down here in the Arclitex. Again, if you're taking pictures of trees or something, that might be a valid target over there. All right. So that's a look at today. By the way, I would be probably starting the day in Childress after yesterday's adventures. So that would be an easy drive, a relatively easy drive up to the Southwest Kansas target today. So if we were to look at a map, well, let's look at radar scope, because that's a nice nice map. We have some radar ducting, beam ducting going on over there in the Lubbock area. So it might not be a bad day, plan an odyssey toward Ulysses, Kansas. See what's going on there. It sounds like an epic target, but of course it's all Greek to me. All right, so that is today. So now what we're going to do is change gears and look at the succeeding days off the NAM here. And again, just to try to keep everything on one map, we're going to do this on Pivotal Weather. We'll look at all 3 days combined here, beginning with tomorrow. And tomorrow, if you watched yesterday's video, tomorrow, the NAM was really loving this idea of Southeast Kansas. Well, I haven't seen the 12Z NAM for tomorrow yet, but at least the trend in some of the earlier runs has been to shift this more southwest as this MCS that develops tonight, at least in the model, continues plowing eastward. So here's 15Z, 18Z tomorrow. You see, again, squall line looks like coming into Missouri. Lilo over Oklahoma, and the surface trough / cold front extending southwest into Texas from that. And just see exactly what this does, because I have not seen this model run at least yet. So curious I don't think low 70s temperatures are going to do it across this area. So again, looks like target area being shoved down towards southern Oklahoma, and then down here across possibly far northern tier of the counties of Texas as well. Also, we have this low pressure here, probably somewhat convectively generated in an MCS up across Nebraska into northern Kansas as well, with weaker capping up there. That may end up being a lower end target. Right now, I'm more drawn toward the southern target, but we'd have to see where Saturday's play ends up being. I'm old enough to remember when the NAM looked good for Saturday. Well, we'll see if it still does. So here we are, Friday night into Saturday. Big woof down here. Looks like a huge MCS developing across Texas Saturday night. You can see the convective outflow from this. And I think what that's really going to do is kind of blow a hole in the moisture field. Also, Saturday's target trending slower, so that would mean farther west. So Lilo back into eastern Colorado. MCS likely continuing across Texas. So it looks like, just based on this, some kind of a warm front or outflow boundary draped here across the I-70 corridor in Kansas now. Looks quite a bit different than it did yesterday, right? That's why, again, you can't just hang your hat on yesterday's NAM for Saturday. You need to keep looking at these model runs as you're out on either a chase trip, or certainly if you're evaluating maybe making a run out on Saturday. Certainly you can't just say, oh, I'm going to drive to central Kansas because it looked good on Wednesday. You really can't keep up with that. And then as we move into the day on Sunday now, cold front looks very cold frontal here on Sunday. As this cold front does surge eastward. I'm not a big fan of cold fronts, but again, I think any target on Sunday probably back down into the Texas Panhandle here, where the cold front may intersect the dry line as the winds here veer around from northwest to northeast. That'll slow the progress of the front, and the triple point here with the back winds may probably provide the most interesting target there on Sunday. So moving to the upper level maps, 850 millibars. Again, let's go into tomorrow. Again, obviously in the NAM world, we do have this squall line moving across Kansas tomorrow. And the question is going to be, how long will this persist, or will this reinvigorate as the downstream atmosphere destabilizes across Missouri tomorrow? But as we look elsewhere, again, aside from obviously, you got to evaluate this target up here to the north as well. Although with all the convection upstream relative to the lower tropospheric flow, instability up there are going to be marginal. But again, if you're local, again, could be possible play up here. We'll have to evaluate the thermodynamics, which I think will be the limiting factor up there. And then also we see the better low-level flow in here. Again, I think this area one, it's just very poor chase country, a lot of this, and I'd be very, very worried about the MCS in that area. And then as we shift into Saturday, again, this one was looking a little more synoptically evident, but you do see the stronger low-level flow here at 0Z Sunday coming up and intersecting that warm frontal boundary. I'm just worried about the low-level moisture quality here with kind of a couple days of large MCSs to the south of this target area. Again, what that does is it rains out a lot of the moisture through the atmospheric column, including at the surface. And so I'm just wondering what the instability is going to look like up that way. And then obviously also up in the South Dakota, as SPC is kind of outlined up in Nebraska and South Dakota, possible target as well on Saturday. But right now, at least to me, what I've looked at and kind of the trend in the NAM, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm just the messenger, is that Saturday right now is not looking nearly as good as it did when I cut the video yesterday, okay? And you can't always predict that, which way the models will trend, if they'll trend at all, but right now the trend for Saturday at least is down. And then as we move into Sunday, again, looks like some kind of remnant MCD in here. And then again, kind of the synoptically evident target anyway, Northeast Texas Panhandle with at least modest low-level flow intersecting that boundary, or probably the dry line triple point over there. So mid-level flow, so 500 millibars. Well, there's our MCV Friday afternoon, and you see that actually becoming a closed low and enhancing the flow field here. So imagine, again, if this MCV was not here, okay, these heights would be quite a bit higher than they would be. So lowering the heights here to the north and not changing them to the south is necessarily going to increase the height gradient unless the mid-level wind speeds across Kansas. And so we actually have wind speeds here approaching and exceeding in maybe some places 50 knots. So again, that's something to keep an eye on. Notice wind speeds here much, much less down to the south here on Friday. So again, Friday always was going to be a mesoscale driven day, all right? So target up here to the north, worried about instability, target down here to the south. There'll be a lot of instability, but shear down there probably looking kind of bad. So we'll have to evaluate that as we go through here. And then moving into Saturday, obviously that remnant MCV lifts up into the place that shall not be named. It lies in between Illinois and Nebraska. A bit interesting locally, I guess, with that mid-level jet coming out across northern Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. So I suppose keep one eye there on northern Illinois on Saturday. And then we see, again, the synoptic trough with, again, only 30 to 35 knots of southwest flow coming out over the plains. Bit weaker than we saw, like I said, yesterday. Trough is slower. And then as we move into Sunday, again, we have another MCV down here, probably another big MCS in Texas on Saturday. Again, not really a valid target down there. So obviously a lot of uncertainty in how this feature might play out into Sunday, but that may lend itself to some mesoscale targets as well. And then obviously we see the enhanced flow back in here. And then elsewhere along that front, one thing I don't look for is flow from the warm to the cold side of the front. And that yields ascent and elevated storms on the cold side of the front, or any storm intersects that front and becomes elevated atop the cold air. So that's this frontal target on Sunday is just looking really bad. But will the MCV be able to set anything off down in the Red River Valley here? Or of course, the Texas Panhandle target, the one that was synoptically evident. So looking at 300 millibars, again, that MCV weakening with height there on Friday. So by 0Z Friday, or just back it up to 21Z, again, about 50 knots of flow down here to the south. And, oh boy, southeasterlies aloft. Again, I think there's going to be some messy storm modes and probably wind profiles up here in this northern target over northern Kansas, and especially as you get into Nebraska Friday afternoon. And then as we move into Saturday, Again, your upper level winds here, the farther northwest you go, the better they're going to be. You're going to have to, again, evaluate the moisture back in there as we move into Saturday. And then again, taking a look at Sunday, as that trough lifts out. Again, this southerly mid-level flow here with a northeast southwest front, that's just trouble written all over it. So again, I think maybe the MCV or maybe Northeast Texas Panhandle, I think, on Sunday. 500 millibar vorticity, again, we've already talked about today. So jumping ahead into the day tomorrow, certainly the vicinity of this closed upper low synoptic ascent for storms is not going to be lacking. The cap will be extremely weak up there, if at all, but the question is, again, are you going to be able to demonstrate any kind of instability or organized storms with this feature? Whereas to the south, again, very, very weak wave you see here in the flow coming through. It is touching off some storms in Nam land down along the Red River that grow upscale fairly quickly in the model. And then moving into Sunday, again, trough lifting into the land of cheese and dairy cows there. Happy cows actually come from Wisconsin, so I've been told. And there we see, again, that trough coming out of the Rockies here. And the question is, where are we going to be able to initiate storms in this corridor into the day on Saturday? And then moving into Sunday, again, you see that MCV showing up very well. Again, downstream of that would be into the Ozarks, but again, possibly down here into the lower or the Red River Valley, or in this area here. And again, I haven't looked at the thermodynamics of the upslope target on Sunday, but we'll evaluate that coming up right here. So let's look at the surface dew point. Again, let's blow through today since we've already looked at that. So as we move into the day on Friday, again, we see this low here, the backed winds along the I-80 corridor east of that. So again, if there's going to be this moisture tongue or this moist nose coming up east of that low, see if that's a valid target. And then kind of this outflow boundary or composite cold front tailing back across Oklahoma here. So again, down where this intersects the better southerly flow along the Red River. Again, possible target there as well into the day on Saturday or the day on Friday. And then also here's this kind of more active outflow boundary stretching across the Ozarks of Arkansas, which I don't even hypothetically target there because of the trees. So you see big MCS blowing up along the Red River Friday night into Saturday, and you see that really does a number on the low-level moisture. Even in the NAM here, barely able to get 50s dew points as this modified MCS outflow comes north, so you can heat it up with the sun, that's fine, but again, you've lost a ton of moisture to that MCS, and I really think that's kind of putting a damper on plans here for Saturday. Again, synoptically evident target over west central Kansas. Have to look at destabilization in that area. And again, if you're able to pool any moisture on the north side of that boundary, but again, looking at this sounding here, there is still some residual capping hanging on as we do have this non-dry adiabatic layer around 850 millibars. So even though wind profile there looks decent, except for deep layer shear, again, Saturday right now, certainly not looking as good as it did. And then some hints of convection forming here over the mountains of Wyoming, again, in a hot, dry environment. And you see here the moisture just not really able to make it back here to the northwest very much. But again, for Saturday, boy, that took a dive, didn't it? And then as we move into Sunday, again, we have that front tailing in here like this. So again, I mentioned there was that possible MCV target here, which is really tough to discern. Looks like the NAM kind of blows up something north of Missouri is what we'll call that. And then obviously even the triple point target here, you see again, the issue with the moisture here, only a 55 dew point showing up on the NAM because of all that convection. Those MCSs, 86 over 55. Veer back city, I mean, that's just woof. That's, again, Sunday looks bad at this time. It really looks bad. And Saturday, I'm sorry to see, is kind of taking a turn downhill as well. So 700 millibar temperatures, let's get through today. We've already looked at this. So as we move into tomorrow, again, very cold air here, aloft, maybe even a potential cold core play across parts of eastern Nebraska tomorrow. Again, going to have to evaluate the instability up there, but certainly it would be what's better than anything on Sunday, I'll tell you that. So again, kind of the two targets up here, and then obviously we're removing the cap, initiating storms down to the south with rapid upscale growth ensuing. Then move into the day on Saturday. Again, not really any kind of instance of cooling aloft coming in here across western Kansas. Looks like, again, maybe up into Nebraska Panhandle, up into South Dakota perhaps, northern Nebraska on Saturday, but really that Saturday target, it's gone downhill, and it's gone downhill quite a lot. All right, so looking, oops, and I forgot to look at Sunday, but no, we don't really need to at this point. All right, so mixed layer Cape for the day tomorrow, and you see this is what I was afraid of up here to the north. Only a 500 joules per kilogram of Cape up nosing up into Nebraska. And again, with the weak mid-level flow field, so even though you have some low-level hodograph curvature here, kind of looks like somebody crumpled up a hodograph and threw it away. So, you know, some cold air funnels, that kind of thing, but really not incredibly bullish on that due to the lack of instability. Obviously, we have this Cape tongue coming up in the vicinity of that outflow boundary into southeastern Kansas tomorrow. But again, the NAM keeping this socked in with low clouds, so you're going to need some surface heating there to break the cap most likely. And as we kind of trail down to the south here into the trees and hills of southeast Oklahoma, again, the tornado parameter, it's like it would like the low LCLs here, the saturation, but again, I'm really worried about capping as it looks right now down there. And then obviously there's the target down along the Red River here with kind of these boundary intersection things here, 5,000 Cape. It's kind of getting silly at this point. But again, you just see the pronounced lack of low-level shear and very linear hodograph showing up there on Friday. MCS, you see, again, really kind of doing a number on the Cape field there. So again, maybe if something tails back here into eastern Colorado, perhaps, looking more and more at the upslope, but again, very linear hodograph here. That sounding pretty much ready to go. In terms of storm formation. So now I think Saturday's target probably looking like west central Kansas, tailing back maybe toward northeast Colorado. Black Hills, obviously, you know, always kind of a play, but that would be very far from where anyone would be on Friday, and that certainly does not look like it's worth the trip. Looking at that hodograph there, and you see again what that MCS has done to the Cape field. Look at what you've done, man. All right. And then again, looking at Sunday, again, you see that what that MCS has done back here. You say, oh, well, let's go to the place that shall not be named. Well, I guarantee the hodograph here, well, it needs some work. We'll just say that. So taking a look at the SIN here, again, beginning Friday. Again, I guess take your chances down here on the Red River, maybe as things nose up here. If we can destabilize that Cape nose into southeast Kansas on Friday. But again, that's both of those targets kind of far from potential area here now on Saturday. Looking back to the west here, and you see again how struggling to uncap things here into western Kansas. But again, I mean, it's possible. Nice looking hodograph here on Saturday, but again, looking like west central Kansas now into northeast Colorado. Obviously, have some days to evaluate that. And then Sunday, again, just the weekly capped and weekly sheared summertime regime along that front across Iowa. Bulk shear, again, we've kind of implied a lot of this, but again, kind of be hurting in a lot of spots. Again, you see up into Nebraska, just no bulk shear. So again, you know, if you can maybe do something, let's look at northern Kansas. Again, hurting in terms of instability, some capping issues there. But again, I mean, is it possible if something goes up, you know, it could spin up there? It's certainly possible. But again, Red River or up into here. So again, I think if you blast east from today's target, you'd be able to reach kind of either one of these, staying in a place like Wichita, somewhere in southern Kansas, northern Oklahoma, something like that. After today's festivities. And then moving into Saturday, again, you kind of see this area here, northeast Colorado, and then kind of down the dry line, a little better shear there, but certainly not, you know, anything world breaking. And yeah, yeah, we forgot to bring up Sunday, so let's go ahead and bring up Sunday here. And again, if we bring up Sunday, we see pretty much all this shear here concentrated, you know, on the cold side of that front where the jet is above the temperature gradient. And if you look elsewhere, I mean, gadzooks, that's bad. Yikes. Low-level SRH. Again, this is in the MCS cold pool here. Again, keep an eye on this. It can destabilize. But again, that's all I can really say about that. Again, decent low-level shear here, but again, instability is a bit of a problem. And then to the south here, low-level shear looking pretty bad on Friday. Looking at Saturday, again, kind of this bullseye up in here, but that's going to be in a fairly capped environment north of the warm front. Look at a sounding here, again, that is capped. So again, the low-level stability preserving the shear at that particular bullseye. And then, boy, this is all on the cold side of the front. Don't even bother with it. So composite parameters, supercell composite, moving into Friday. Again, highlighting this area with the instability. It's very Cape-based parameter down here. So again, not doing much up here to the north where the instability is lacking. And then moving into Saturday, again, you can see where it's highlighting. We talked about that based on the ingredients back there. And again, shear just kind of tailing off a bit down the West Texas dry line. And then Sunday, again, kind of except for, you know, MCS cold pool in here, and then the immediate cold side of a front where you still have instability and strong shear across frontal inversion. That's looking pretty bad. Tornado parameter, again, I said it would highlight this area. It certainly did do that. Looking at, again, Saturday here, again, this has come down quite a bit from where it was yesterday, values of like 8. Now it's like values of like 3. So keep that in mind. And then Sunday, again, as expected, just kind of a lot of nil. So where does the NAM initiate convection? Well, here's tomorrow morning. Squall line blowing east across Kansas, continuing into the Ozarks here. So again, I think probably this is going to continue. But again, these storms developing kind of along or south of that outflow boundary near that surface trough here. Not really a great area to chase in terms of terrain. And obviously as well, there's this target up here in northern Kansas, low Cape, but again, kind of a quasi cold core play where at least you have some deep layer shear down here into north central Kansas. So that would be another possible target tomorrow. So again, we've said targets tomorrow would change. They certainly have done that. Big MCS blowing up Texas. And you see again, NAM, it's stingy today over western Kansas. Again, western Nebraska Panhandle, Wyoming. So again, you just throw a sounding up here, see what you get. But again, very, very straight photograph on that one. But again, Saturday's not dead. Yeah, I think other models, other runs might initiate there. And then you see Sunday, again, just kind of popcorn summertime convection forming along that front there. So I guess we'll look at the high-res NAM, look at some other high-res models for tomorrow, and then we'll call it a day. So again, for tomorrow, the high-res NAM, again, like its big brother or big sister, I'm not sure. We have the squall line blasting east across Kansas there. So 18Z, again, 21Z, just a lot of kind of stratiform rain up into Nebraska, so that'll cut down on the instability up there. But again, any kind of breaks in the clouds up here, something might be marginally interesting, I suppose. And then you see, again, rapid upscale growth across Texas, and also these storms forming over the hills and trees of southeastern Oklahoma. So again, got those two target areas tomorrow, shaping up there, also outlined on this. And does this initiate where I want it to? It does. Hey, all right. So again, like I said, it's not dead. But here's again, high-res NAM, good low-level shear, some capping issues on that particular sounding there. But again, a little bit of hope here for Saturday. So again, nice to end our look at the NAM with that. So again, WRF ARW for tomorrow, just starting at 18Z. See what that might be up to. Again, you see some of that cold core convection a little faster with it bubbling it into northwestern Missouri tomorrow. And then cells as well forming down to the south here across parts of North Texas near the Dallas area tomorrow. So again, kind of two bifurcated targets tomorrow worth considering. Taking a look at the NMMB, again, convection kind of swirling around that upper low. You know, again, it's farther east here. I mean, who knows? And then just boom, upscale growth much farther south there across Texas. So this one definitely favoring the northern target there for tomorrow. And then the NSSL WRF for tomorrow, again, just paging through this. Again, banded convection showing up in here. So again, you know, we'll see how that goes. But kind of a northern play and then the southern play, and this one not really liking the southern play. And then finally, coming back to College of DuPage, we'll just shift this here to the north, so we can look at the HER here, the HER version 4. So again, there's that MCS kind of blowing out through the Ozarks. Up there to the north, again, nothing really too interesting going, but again, this initiating farther north in some of them across the hills and trees and mountains and forests and national forests of eastern Oklahoma. What is this doing farther down to the south? Also, storms down there as well. So this one certainly favoring the southern play for tomorrow, and then the 12Z HER, which goes all the way out. Seeing what that one does. Again, there's the MCS diving across, and kind of a lot like its sibling there, kind of blowing up some supercells across southern Oklahoma and northern Texas. So it's liking that play. And then again, the northern play, again, a couple storms forming up there. And again, let me just throw up a map of the supercell composite. I don't want to take all day with this, but again, you see it. Certainly favoring the southern play, although the northern play, again, for locals, things like that might be potential. So again, today, pretty easy target, Southwest Kansas, I think. Tomorrow, possible target here, kind of north of the Kansas City area, in this area, and then again, kind of from east central Oklahoma down into north central Texas. I think tomorrow, two targets, and then Saturday's target, I think, kind of west central Kansas. Back into northeast Colorado, probably that area in there. So anyway, that's what we have for today. I might see you tomorrow, but again, as the pattern kind of drops off here towards Sunday, I'm not going to just be probably doing these every day. But anyway, we'll talk to you later. Bye.